Hello and welcome to TableTalk Friday, your weekly dose of D&D banter between three lads in a bedroom. If you like their style, make sure to follow them on whichever podcast service you prefer, and come back every Friday for another upload. Now, back to the boys.
Now, are we talking about being a good player or a great player?
Let's start from the baseline of what good players do. So, who wants to start us off? I can do it as well.
I think starting off as a good player, one of the most important things you can do is just listening to your party members, as well as just being cooperative. The first thing about D&D is kind of being a team and
That's
working
true.
together, getting through to whatever your goal may be, whether it's a grand adventure or something small scale. You have to make sure you're talking. You got to make sure you're talking with each other, make sure you're using your abilities to help each other, and using all of your resources to just assist and cooperate. And the DM will greatly appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I agree that you should, at the very least, not be off-putting to every player all the time. Mm-hmm. Not that we've had that experience.
No.
But, like, leave room for your character to grow, for sure. If you're going to be a good player, you can't stay stagnant all the time. If your character starts out hating the entire party and only going with them by necessity, they need to, later on, at least like a party member or two and build a relationship with them.
Right.
Instead of, and we don't want every single time that you guys have an encounter to wonder, why is this person here helping us? They don't even seem to want to be. Or else, it doesn't make sense for your character to be there, and they'll make a decision to get them out of the story, you know?
Right. So this is all very anecdotal. Definitely doesn't have anything to do with any campaigns that we've played in.
Yeah.
But this ties back into
Dragonborn Eric.
Yes, Dragonborn Eric, of course, who is just a very great team player. But this is all stuff that you should discuss with your DM during session 0, which I'm sure you remember we discussed last week. But you just need to understand and discuss with your DM what the expectations are for your group of adventurers. So I know for a lot of new players, alignment is something that is a very big deal for them. I put on my character sheet that my character is chaotic neutral. So I'm going to be...
Like everybody else.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to be doing things that are chaotic and wacky, and I don't need to justify it. I'm chaos. But that can easily become very frustrating when you're the rogue who always steals from the other players and doesn't want to share the loot that
it can
you
be
find.
fun at the beginning.
Yeah.
It can be very fun at the beginning to be like, I don't know if I like you yet. Oh, got a gold piece. Oh, I took that.
Yeah,
that's very fun, like right from the get-go to do those kinds of things. But as time goes, your party should grow as well. You should stop stealing in favor of working together for the greater good. And I think that most characters, I've said this many times to both of you, but I think if you're playing the game in a normal way, alignment's not really necessary. Like, you don't really need to choose an alignment and say that every decision I make is going to be a chaotic neutral one.
Right.
Because I feel like most characters that are just good people in general, if good is in there at all, or even if neutral's in there at all, are going to do the neutral good decision. They're going to do the decision that's like, that seems like the right one.
Right.
Now, you can't have a character that's like, ooh, I bet that I need to psych the DM out here because I think that this might have an alternative solution, and then that's when the chaotic nature comes into play. But I think that most times, if you're making a character that's like thrown into a world-saving scenario, they're going to choose the world-saving solution.
Right, so that's, again, everything should be discussed up front with your DM. So, it's important to be conscientious of what you're actually trying to accomplish at the table. So, if everyone's evil and everyone's cool with you, murdering that peasant just because you can, then by all means, go with the flow. But if you're a group of all good characters and then you say, no, I want to be this evil necromancer, that's going to be my next character.
That might conflict with the party a bit.
Yeah, which is not to say don't ever do that, but be conscientious of what your character actually wants and give them a good reason to be adventuring with these heroes.
Yeah. like, say if you have that lawful good paladin who is abiding by all of the laws, well, why is the fiendish warlock here? And we've made that work. We've made that work very well. We've had, for instance, Morwen and Beryl. Like, you can have that very well. Morwen was all good. He doesn't like a lot of anything the evil that comes into play is a little bit like, whoa, why is this happening? Let's kill it, you know?
Right.
But we also had
or at least get it under control. We have to, take care of it. But
yeah. But Beryl, the Kenku Bard, was very, very chaotic. One of my favorite characters to have, like, to have played with was Beryl. He's very chaotic. He would make decisions, and Morwen would come up to him and be like, well, why... What is this thing that you're dealing with right now? How can I help you? What's wrong? And Beryl would go, I don't know. And then he would just walk off and do his own thing. And Morwen learned to write that off. That was like a character thing where it's like, these characters have conflicting interests, but it's not enough to make them not friends.
Right. Well, and we still have the same goals in mind.
Exactly.
And Beryl, in his own way, he was a zany, wacky character, but he, in his own way, did make it clear that he had the party's best interests in mind. He would heal at anyone, anytime that they were, in danger. He always protected his friends. Mm-hmm. Made it clear that we're still a team, which is the important part. In addition, you don't always have to be the perfect team. That can breed good conflict, but ultimately there has to be a resolution if there's some sort of conflict.
Well, and same players in this situation, Oswin and Nuth.
Yes.
Oswin and Nuth, two very against each other characters that we have an artificer, however you want to say it.
Yep.
Basically a treasure hunter type of character, but does everything for the sake of, like, usually for the sake of good, not always. Nuth, the character who has a very good heart, but does everything in a very savage way, who butt heads all the time in the campaign, but there's always a resolution of some sort that shows, like, we're still on the same team because of these reasons. Like, if we weren't in these circumstances, who knows if we'd be on the same team, but we are.
Right.
And I will say, as far as, like, player conflict goes, you shouldn't have to deal with it that much. If there's a lot of player conflict, it's probably taking a toll outside the game as well. Mm-hmm. So, how to be a good player? Play with players you like. And the team will build itself. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to role play your character. That's kind of on you and your DM and your team to figure out how you want to do. But how do you become a good person with roleplay? Have other people that want to do it with you, you know? That sounded very... Have other people that want to do it with you. Good words. D&D, boys. Welcome to D&D. Let's play.
Well, there was one session.
Oh, no.
Well, but I wasn't DMing that one.
No. You shouldn't be running into that either.
Yeah, well, I mean, some parties might like that. So I'm not gonna diss anyone's kinks for their type of D&D.
Yep.
But back on topic a little bit. Drew, you can speak up to this one a lot. Drew, in every session of Storm Kings, Drew's a great player. Always a minute or two late. Whenever we had things going on in college, consistently a minute or two. It was never 10 minutes. It was never 15 minutes. It was a minute or two. And we would always sit there, set like a timer, and be like, "When's Drew going to show up? We really want to start playing today. You know, we have rehearsal in 3 hours, so we need to get started. Where's Drew at?" Drew, you want to speak on it a little bit?
I was there. You know, as a player...
Defend yourself, please.
as a player, your DM should expect you to show up, like in a 3-hour range. Show up whenever
We're starting at 5, and then Drew's head, sometime between 5 and 8.
Plus, you want to make sure your character looks cool. So if you show up just a little late, but you have a really cool design for your character, you're fashionably late.
Right.
You'll play better, you'll be more efficient. The DM might even give you more abilities on the side, just to show off a little bit.
Yep. And you'll hit all of your shots every time
just like I did.
Bow.
So definitely show up on time and show up prepared for the session. Don't show up needing to pick 3 new spells.
If you're into that kind of thing. In all seriousness, show up on time.
Broccoli Eric had the same problem, I will say.
With spells.
We're level 9?
That was the funny thing with Broccoli Eric, though, because I always found it really funny and endearing with him as a person.
Yeah.
Where I would go like, "Hey, so you went ahead and picked your spells and learned your new abilities, right?" And then he would go, of course I did. And then he would open the book, and I'd say, okay, you guys have 5 minutes. Like, we're getting started in 5 minutes.
That's another good point. Make sure you level up ahead of time.
Yeah, level up ahead of time. Come to sessions prepared. It's important to show up ready to play. If you have 8 hours to spare and you're with your friends and you're just hanging out, spend all the time doing whatever you need. Like, who am I to tell you to just hang out with your friends? But if you're like we were and you're playing with a school schedule going on or a job, or if you're adults like we are now and you basically have a bedtime. If you basically have a bedtime, you've got a certain amount of time, a certain window to play D&D, and I'm not gonna let one player mess that up for me, because D&D is like the best part of the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think more importantly, make sure you're doing that to respect your DM's time as well. Your
Oh
DM
my
puts
God.
a lot of time, especially if they're homebrewing something and
Yeah.
putting that time into a world or preparing with their encounters. Just give them the respect of making sure you're there.
And if you're like I am as a DM, where you read the book and you go, I don't like that, and then you want to change every single thing that's in the book because you think it's not good enough, you go, and that's not saying anything against the people who wrote the modules. The modules are great, but as I run a lot of modules, and I change a lot in the modules because I have fun doing it and I know what my players like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, not on topic, but I think there's just a lot that of good that can come from that.
Yeah.
For people to share their D&D stories. You say, oh yeah, I played Curse of Strahd. You played Curse of Strahd? Well, how
What'd
did
you
you
think
DM?
of-
Yeah. You could have two entirely different experiences.
Do you remember the elevator?
Yeah.
Oh, the elevator. I am prepared.
There's an elevator in Curse of Strahd.
Don't try to trick me. I know it's coming. I'm ready for it. If you play in Curse of Strahd, just don't get in any elevators. That's it. You'll beat the entire
And this is not a spoiler for Curse of Strahd, by the way, everybody. Is there an elevator in Curse of Strahd? Maybe. But does it have anything to do with the overlapping story? Like no, not that much.
Yeah. If anybody listens to this podcast now, I've saved countless lives. Countless lives.
Oh, you better watch that elevator. This will be something for like the veteran TableTalk Friday listeners. A couple years from now, someone will send us a message. Hey, I listened to episode 3. Thank you so much for the elevator tips.
They're spoil. This is a real spoiler.
Oh my
Everyone,
God.
Mute if you've got any.
Skip 10
actual concerns.
seconds from now. Click the forward 15-second button. Get ready. All right, in 3, 2, 1.
There are multiple elevators in Curse of Strahd, so you have to always be on your guard.
Oh, I can't. The big reveal. The big reveal in Curse of Strahd
I love
comes
that
out.
Drew actually plugged his ears.
Yeah,
Wasn't
so-
sure if we were being real or not. I plugged him. I didn't want to know.
No, it was not a spoiler.
Now skip back 15 seconds.
And
so
listen
you
to
can
the
get,
big reveal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Gosh.
Glad we're all on the same page.
I guess jumping to another point, as players, at least one person in the group, and this is going to be very hypocritical because I'm not the one that does this, but one of the players should really take some kind of notes. Whether it's
Oh
bullet
my
points
God, let's-
or something.
I didn't
Please
even think of that as a tip today.
jot
But that is
down
that's a definite
names,
tip.
places, dates, something that'll help you just get a little recollection of what happened last week.
Yes. So, for instance, we played in my campaign.
Yep.
Zach takes all the notes.
I do.
Now, I am usually like the forever DM. I love DMing. Anytime I get the chance, if someone says, we're running a one-off this week, I go, ooh, can I run it? Because I love DMing. Zach takes all the notes. So, whenever it comes his turn to DM, everybody looks around the table and goes, who's taking notes for this session? And we all go, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Oh, I'll do it. And none of us do it because we don't want to take the notes because Zach's supposed to take the notes. But yeah, for the love of God, the DM is probably going to remember what happened, but it is on you as your character to kind of remember what happened. I mean, yes, there will be a recap involved and everything, but a lot of times when my players ask me, like, what was the name of this person or something like that, sometimes I'll make a character roll a history check just to see if they know. Because it's like, oh, well, would your 8 intelligence character remember that? Let's find out,
Yeah.
And I don't usually throw a lot of metagame stuff in there like that, where it's like, well, would you remember? Sometimes it's just like, her name was Grandine. That's all you need to know. Mm-hmm. But, you never know when your DM's going to get a little creative and throw that thing in there. So take some notes, remember what happened, and it can help with your prep too, like with the DM's prep.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is a great overarching note. How to be a good player, help your DM out.
Yeah.
Because they don't... Here's another big spoiler. Your DM doesn't always know everything before they start the session. And you'll come up with, something on the spot as a DM. They'll say, yeah, is there anywhere that I can get skis in this town? I really need a pair of skis for this ski-related idea that I had. And you thought, no, I didn't think of, do they have sportswear in the Forgotten Realms? And you decide, yeah, they do. Okay, well, so what was the name of that shop you came up with on the spot? What was the owner like? Anything like that?
Also do the exact voice you did for him before.
Yeah, you may not be able to remember that. So it's nice, I think, to have a player just to take notes on the side. Obviously, if it's not significant enough to come up again later, then maybe you don't need the note on it.
Yeah, that's true.
But occasionally, there are bits that will become gold. Like the names of 6 goblins that will be your best friends for the rest of the campaign. If someone didn't write those down... They would have changed
the
names
amount of times
every
we
episode.
all sat around for 5 minutes and went, okay, Vix, Bach, Bomb, Clammy Hands, Mixman, and...
Shill.
That's easy.
My favorite.
I was thinking, who's Bach?
Well, those are the 2 rejects. We always knew that we had Clammy Hands and Mixman, the favorites.
Yeah, and Bix the sniper.
And then Shill,
Never miss
the
a shot.
mean one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whenever and those characters all came up on the spot because of Sean. Like,
Sean Eric.
Yeah. Sean Eric, yeah.
I guess as an incentive, too, to take notes, keep in mind, if you take good enough notes and something happens where, you see this sigil and, we haven't seen that in 30 sessions, and you're the one that comes to the table and spits out that idea, and all of a sudden you guys know what you're doing, you know what you're dealing with. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and I'll throw things in, like I'll throw little tiny hints here and there that allude to something that you guys saw before, and sometimes nobody catches it, and I'm not about to go, hey guys, you remember that thing that I told you 30 sessions ago? That's what it was. A lot of times I expect you to remember, and if you don't, I let it pass. I want it to be an actual player reaction if that actually comes up. Mm-hmm. I was going to say something, and now it's gone!
You can doodle, too. Doodle the sentence.
Yeah, you can doodle. Great things not to do as a player. You could doodle. You can lie in your notes. If your DM doesn't remember, but it's in your notes, you could get away with...
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say...
Which I've definitely never done. I've definitely never lied about anything in my notes.
I was going to say that in combat especially, it's hard for your DM to keep up with every single creature and character and where they are and who's aiming at who and where the damage is going. I'm a person who really likes to have quick and succinct combat, so I don't usually notate everything. I usually just remember the numbers, and I'll keep the numbers in mind. You're aiming at this one. Okay, 24 divided by 2 is 12 because he made his save. And then he has 57 hit points. He has 45 now. Cool. I'll keep that in mind for the next one. I'm very good with numbers in that way as a DM, so I just keep track of that stuff.
I am not. I write them all down.
Yeah.
100%
But when someone says, like, remember this, like, status effects or something, I forget all the time. Someone says, I'm going to blind this character. They fail their save. Cool. They're blinded. I usually tell my player, remember that. Because when someone else aims at him, I need someone to tell me that they're blinded, because all I'm keeping track of right now are kind of hit points. So to be a good player, like Zach was saying, help out your DM as much as you can. They're going to forget things. They're going to get things wrong. They might do the voice for another character as a different one, and jokingly pointing it out is fun. If you have 2 of your manly characters come up, and they happen to be in the same room together at one time.
Wow, Durnan sounds a whole lot like Artis Simber.
If 2 of your very manly characters come up at the same time, and one of your 15 voices is the same for these 2, that's a moment that, one, is very funny, but understand...
Yeah, what? I even... sorry to interrupt you. I even forgot about that. That was actually one of the funniest things.
That was great. That was a great moment in the campaign where I was like, you guys have to understand that I can't do a million voices. I am not a voice actor, but what I am is a DM, and I think I'm a pretty good DM. Here, I have these voices. This one's the same for these 2. So understand that your DM isn't perfect. Your DM is not an expert at the game or anything, But be understanding. To be a good player, don't backseat DM. That's a good thing to lead into. Do not backseat DM. Help your DM where it's needed, but do not sit there in the game and say, well, actually, this is how that would work. Because we've had those scenarios before where it's like, oh, everybody, this is a Hobgoblin Warlord. He has this exact amount of health, and all we have to do is hit this AC this many times. So let's do everything to do that as possible.
And this is not to be confused with reminding your DM of things.
Yes.
Because reminding your DM of things can be very helpful. In one of our most recent sessions, I have a spell called Slow that affects 6 different people, potentially. And I'm sure my DM, accounting for the other 8 people in the battlefield, doesn't remember which ones were slow.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
Yeah, so that's perfectly fine. But, for example, say your DM makes a ruling, and you say, no, I don't think, like maybe you don't remember the rules from the DMG. If a flying creature goes prone, like how does that work? If your DM makes a ruling, even if you remember the exact page from the DMG, it's not good courtesy. It's not being a good player.
And it's a waste of everybody else's time. It's probably not that big of a deal. If it's a huge encounter, life or death deal, look it up in the book. That's probably necessary. But if it's like, okay, the creature wasn't prone, so instead of getting advantage on melee attack, instead of having disadvantage on ranged attacks or whatever, you don't have that. And you go through all of that effort just to find out, oh, the DM was right, or oh, the DM was wrong here, but it wouldn't have affected a single thing in the game.
Right.
It's probably not that big of a deal. Don't make a big fuss about it. Just be understanding. The rules are fluid, and the DM can kind of come up with whatever they want to. We'll have an episode on how to be a better DM and how to be a good DM that'll go along with that. With that statement, because sometimes there are DMs that can be overwhelming with the rules, or like super rules lawyery where they don't let their players get creative. But that's for another time. That's not for right now.
And as a player, it can be helpful sometimes to temper your expectations as well, because there are certain schools of thought with D&D that might suggest, I rolled a nat 20, let me have whatever I want, and sometimes it's just not feasible. And even if you roll a nat 20 persuasion check, the big bad is not going to take his pants off.
So exactly.
That's just not going to happen.
So
temper your expectations with that, and it's a good conversation to have with your DM. That if we're using the rule of cool, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like for instance, as a DM, I let my players get very creative with things. If someone says, "Can I do that?" I let them roll for it. Usually the DC is like 15 to 17 or something like that. Let's see what happens. If it's something that's out of this world crazy, if they roll above a 20, they get it usually. But that's not always the case. Sometimes things are impossible. Can you climb a sheer, just perfect marble wall with a 25 athletics check? Unless you have a tool to do so, still probably not.
Yeah, did you become Spider-Man?
Yeah, exactly. If you have a grappling hook, absolutely. You can get up there. If you have, like, claws that dig into the side of the building or something, and you come up with a creative idea like that, like I take out my axe and I slam it into the wall, pull up, slam it again. Those are, exceptional. I would allow that to happen. While you will make a lot of noise, you can climb the wall. But likewise, don't expect your DM to come with those up on the fly. We've all DM'd for many sessions and can come up with those things really quickly. I guess I'll get into this before I get into... I want to say stuff about metagaming for sure, and about like power gaming and caring too much about like the numbers and all of that. But
I'll take note of those. I'll make sure to bring them up.
Yes, please do. Please do. But I would like to talk about what a lot of D&D players have come to understand as like the Matthew Mercer effect. Meaning that, don't expect your DM to be perfect. Like take for example, not cutting Matthew Mercer out of it, just the fact that every DM has a different DMing style, and your DM should fit that style whatever style you're looking for pretty well. But Matthew Mercer has been DMing since he was a kid, and he is very, very good. He is a voice actor, tons and tons of different voices, can make every character perfectly unique, and has a lot of time to write those things out. Your DM might have had 2 hours before this session to prep only knows 3 different voices: a male, a female, and an old person voice. And and this
It might sound like this.
And while your DM has to gain experience too, just like you do as a player, so don't expect them to be like the almighty god of this world. They're going to be confused sometimes too, and they have to get used to it, especially if it's a first-time DM. Don't be like, well, I saw on this show that this could happen, or I played a session of D&D one time like this, and my DM did this with this ruling. Well, your DM is not them. So
Right.
Don't go after the way that your DM chooses to play because you've had a different experience or seen a different experience.
Don't be afraid to let them have the final call. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
If something's going crazy, it's their game overall. They're making the rules for the game. Let them make a final decision in the heat of the moment to make things keep moving.
Yeah.
And especially if you're the kind of player who is a DM, and then now you're taking off your DM hat and you're stepping into your player hat. Allow yourself to be a player and allow your DM to be a DM.
Yeah.
We've definitely had experiences with issues with that where
People who are amazing DMs and horrible players.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
one thing I'll say. We've had amazing DMs be horrible players.
Mm-hmm. Especially Seth.
Yeah. I was literally about to say I don't mean to brag, but I think I'm very good at stepping into the player role in the case that I'm very good at for only playing my character. You know, taking off that hat and being like, all right, I'm here. I'm a quiet character now. I don't have a lot to say because my character wouldn't have a lot to say. You know, I get super into character when I play.
But just allow the game to run anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
And understand that it's not your game. It's not everything about you. It's a collaborative experience, and everyone's there to have fun. So.
Yeah.
More of a specific tip. As a player, try to avoid the phrase, how is it looking?
I hate those words.
Absolutely drive your DM nuts.
That's
Now,
Seth's pet peeve.
It's my pet peeve because it didn't bother me for most of Storm Kings, but then it became a thing that was asked on every creature, on every hit, on every turn. Where it was like, okay, I hit 7 points of damage from this creature that you're fighting at level 13 that's been hit once. How's he looking? Like he took 7 damage for a CR 12 character at this late in the campaign. And so I asked my players, I was like, hey guys, I just need you to not ask me how things are looking all the time. If it's getting 5 rounds into combat, we're all exhausted. We went 4.5 hours instead of 3 today. How is the boss looking? That makes sense to me.
Feasible question.
Yeah, feasible question at that point. But I don't want that question asked, 40 times every time a character's hit, just because you want the final blow.
Yep. Alternatively, as a DM, you might start adopting. Yeah, it looks bloodied, something like that.
Yeah, I usually nowadays I'll bring up it's looking like this because and I try to describe in detail how each creature takes damage. If it's a lower health creature, maybe you can see that his armor's being blunted here and there, and a little bit of blood starts to seep out. While other times, whenever a character has very little health, you actually knock their bones out of socket or something like that. Try to describe it in the way that you can imagine those creatures taking damage.
So, absolutely. Shoot, I had a great thought.
That's happening a lot today.
Yeah, that's the theme of the episode.
Theme of the episode.
thought
I
is,
can't remember what I was going to say.
If it's still standing, just shoot it again. just take care of it.
That's
Shoot
good.
it again until it's
I
done.
like that mentality because I adopt the same one of okay, I'm hoping I can finish this thing off. Zach does a good job when DMing of saying okay, you're getting there, because we had a moment in the first session of Ghost of Saltmarsh recently where I was stabbing a shark in the literal mouth, and he was like, almost, it's got its chompers down on my arms, and I'm like, I want it dead, and I'm telling another character to run because I'll protect them, and he's like, it's gonna be a close one, Seth.
At this point, I'll say it had 7 hit points left, and after that hit that he dealt, and then even after that, someone else hit it again, and they thought for sure this thing was dead. It still had 1 hit point.
Yeah.
That was really a nail-biting encounter.
It was great.
But
Oh, what a good encounter. Which I guess is another good tip. Stay out of the water if there's sharks in it. Don't go in the water.
yeah, maybe just make common sense decisions.
Yeah,
Don't get yourself. My number one DM pet peeve is players who try to get killed. Because I think Seth could easily say, I'm the DM who will always advocate for the players in every situation that I can.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on your guys' side because I want to see you succeed.
I think we're all like that, though.
Yeah.
Like, I never want to kill anybody.
Oh, absolutely. But I'll definitely try my very hardest not to kill anyone.
Well, and we have players who, like, for instance, my character, I'm letting him be, level 1, just how he wants to be, letting him grow as he learns because he's never done this kind of stuff before. But in a moment of, like, very crazy, like, heroism, wants to protect the person who's about to die. Because that person made a couple of bad decisions in a row. And so it's like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm protecting other players because I know a lot about the game. I know.
Right.
So like, okay, let me protect the players that are in danger.
And we'd even experienced this exact situation
in another one-off on the ocean with the same creatures
that I'd written. And it was the same person who made that same mistake again.
But when that happens with a player, expect that you're dead. There's nothing you can do at that point, honestly.
I'm thinking, Cordelia, I'm sorry.
This'll
You're going to die.
No, and I think if I hadn't been there, Cortelia's dead.
Yeah.
I was gonna go to the other side of the ship until that happened. But our game aside,
yes,
I would say that just as a player, you do you, and explain to your DM if your DM looks like surprised by what you've done in anything. it kind of explain to them your thought process a little bit because no one likes for any hostile situations. That's one thing that you never want in a game of D&D: hostile situations.
In your real life, not in the game necessarily.
Oh yes,
obviously
you're going to go through plenty of hostile situations in D&D. I am saying that though that in real life, if you're having beef with a player or like with another player in real life,
yeah,
maybe it's best that you guys take this week off because you guys got to sort your stuff out. You don't want that beef to carry over into the game. We've experienced it plenty of times, and we do not have room in that for our lives anymore, or room for that in our lives anymore.
Yeah.
Room in that for your lives. We don't have room for your lives in here.
We've only got beef.
Slaps down a plate of meatballs. We've only got beef here.
That's all I have time for. I'm a busy adult.
Where's the... Oh, there.
It's my bedtime. But yeah, for sure. If there's beef going on, sort it out before you come to the table. Especially if it's between two players and the DM doesn't know about it. Oh my god.
Oh, yikes.
I don't know if I've run into that situation. Have you guys? Where usually it's between DM and player a lot of times, but I haven't had two players be going at it and still both show up to the session.
Well, I've got an awkward situation. I was in beef with another player.
Right.
Yeah, Zach's brother Eric. We
not his actual name, Eric.
No, yeah, of course, but
yeah.
But we have butted heads in the middle of a session before.
Yeah.
Which is not good player behavior. Of course, you wouldn't want to experience that ever, really. Well, and you know what? I've experienced some tense situations all around, not just DM to player, but all players to player as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me of what I was gonna say. Read the room.
Yes, please.
As a player,
please read the room.
Yeah, that's a very important skill. Is just understanding if you do something that's.
I'm getting heated thinking about situations now.
If it sounds fucked up, it might be fucked up.
Yeah,
and you shouldn't say that out loud. And obviously your DM should discuss with you prior what is expected at the table. But if they haven't, again, read the room.
Yeah, every time I have a new group, I mentioned this in episode 1, but I have table rules. I don't mention it to my players now because they know them. But maybe if if sexual assault is not a good subject to bring up in the game, and it's not, honestly, not good at ever, but if it's not good to be brought up in the game at all, and your DM doesn't like that, as I don't, make sure you respect that.
Yeah.
Don't make the decision because you're like, but my character would do it, and I'm like, well, your character's a fantasy character, and you can leave.
And something super simple that helps with all of these problems we're talking about in this role-playing game, roleplay. If you get in a situation that's awkward, you'll stop being in that situation. If you guys have beef in person, if you're being your character, you won't have beef in the game.
That's true. And that's it's definitely difficult.
If you haven't done that thing before, you know, I think we don't have beef to deal with right now, so there's probably not a lot to talk about there for us. We have a very, very good group, but yeah, we have been in those situations where everybody's got conflicting schedules. We can finally play for 2.5 hours. Let's try to get this done, and an argument breaks out at the table. Everyone but 3 people leave. And that day was a tough day.
We retconned some things. We made it better. But
speaking from our own experiences, there's nothing that can't be sorted out with just simple communication between DM, player to player, everybody. To which I'd like to say, metagaming.
Yes,
metagaming is a good segue here because there's a time and place for it. I think in combat sometimes it can be okay.
Just to not to interrupt.
Definition of metagaming.
For our viewers who are unfamiliar with the term.
Yeah, so metagaming is basically when you take things that you know outside of the game about the game and then use that in your character who would have no clue what they're talking about.
So the obvious example is trolls are weak to fire.
Yes, that's a good one.
Maybe in your world, everyone knows that very simple fact that trolls are weak to fire, but if that's not been discussed with your DM and then you run into a troll and you say, I know the solution. Me, level 1 fighter man who's killed many trolls, apparently. You just need to
pulls out alchemist fire flask instead of slashing troll or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a tool that a consumable that most people would never use, but I know this, so throws it. Now there is a time and place where it's like, you know, wizard use your firebolt. That's makes sense for a wizard to use firebolt. That's a spell that commonly people use. I would be okay if a player, you know, was like just like shoot it with firebolt or something. And that goes on, and he was vulnerable, extra damage, surprise, you found his weakness. You know, it's not don't use all of the outside knowledge like you would. Like, I know that a hobgoblin with this armor has 20 AC, you know, or 19 AC. Boom. That's I was aware of that. All I know is, hey guys, we need to focus the little ones because this one has 19 AC and those guys have 7 hit points. So everybody spread out and do that. Do kind of what your player would do, and in roleplay as well, when it comes to finding a magic item or knowing what a certain creature is or the location of something or something is brought up in the game and you're like, oh, I know what that is. I read the book this one time, or I read the module and this is in the description. Don't put that into your character, you know, at all. Or if you know a certain creature's weaknesses, resistances, all of that, as we were talking about before, me knowing that my friends are all DMs, I'm gonna change those as the DM. So I do preface a lot of times with, hey guys, this is not the same one in the monster manual because I changed it so you wouldn't know anything. You know,
definitely not directed at anyone in particular who might remember.
No, but there have been times where in the past, mostly, like, we haven't had these situations in a long time, but there have been times in the past where everyone's like, what creature is that? I don't think I've seen that before. You know, Seth, what book is this creature from? And I'm like, it's not. I made it up. I made it up.
I think a great example of all this metagaming knowledge would actually be a few weeks ago in Descent into Avernus. We were fighting some werewolves, and no one at the table knew what werewolves do when they bite you except Zach here, and he actually was very kind enough not to tell anybody that he knew that. And also, you had homebrewed them as well. They were stronger and had some armor on.
Yeah, they were stronger. They had some armor on, and the ability that lycanthropes have was different in hell because I chose that.
And we were all very surprised.
because a regular lycanthrope would not have been a challenge for the party at this point. You know, like,
of course
I know what they have, I know what they're capable of, and I know, like, sort of their power level. So I try to always give, like, the bad guys a win condition, even though I don't want them to win. And so I gave them one. And though, you know, we came into this situation, everyone's like, oh no, is this person going to get like a crazy buff when this thing bites them? Uh-oh, don't bite me, please. Is this person going to get a crazy buff? No, they're not, because I changed it.
Yeah, imagine our surprise when our, the big, powerful bugbear fighter with 80 hit points drops to 0 in one bite. That was a fun remix, and our metagame knowledge was subverted.
Well,
so that might even be a good DM tip. Stay tuned for next episode. But as a player, you have to be open to that, because imagine how awkward if we said, "Nuh-uh, werebears don't knock you out when they bite you."
You know how frustrated I would be to know that, because I know that I know that my players should trust me at this point with the amount of times I've DM'd for them, but they always, rightfully so, feel like their lives are at risk.
Yeah.
And so I knew what a character was going to do on the next turn to subvert this and make it fixed. But none of them did, so they were all like, somebody save him, he's dead next turn. And likewise, I had a character come in that could heal very well and had some magic stuff going on that wasn't quite stable and fix the situation, but it can be very tense, and luckily we all have good players. No, there wasn't a lanky Eric at the table to stand up and go, excuse me, sir, that's not what would happen.
Now, keep in mind, none of these tips apply to if you're a wizard, and air pollution can kill you. So just be aware, you can metagame if you're a wizard. That's allowed.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, of course, because wizards can get breathed on and die.
Yes.
They can die from a simple cold.
And it's okay to discuss with your DM. Okay, well, would my character know?
That happens all the time.
That trolls are weak to fire. I'm a battle master. I've studied different monsters and that sort of stuff. That might make sense.
And sometimes, even if the answer is no, the DM can offer a solution that's like, you probably wouldn't know exactly this, but you might know this instead, and have like allude to that happening. Maybe you don't know the name of this specific god or something like that, but you've seen this symbol and you know kind of what it stands for.
Yeah, or even the DM can ask you to roll and see if you know.
And maybe you took in our common explanation for when you know something that your character probably shouldn't know is like, you took that elective in school? Or like back at the academy? It's a very fun way to do it. It doesn't always have to make perfect sense. You can explain a lot of things away with logic.
Right.
But that's good incentive to make sure your character is very flavorful, too. Back in Storm Kings, I played a merchant, and so he knew a little bit more about some of the surrounding towns because he had been there. He had sold some goods in that area.
Yeah.
So, having a little flavor in there helps.
And that's one more thing that I'd like to say for players before we start wrapping up closer to the end of this. But show up to the table ready to have fun, not to win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And don't ask to roll. The DM will do that for you.
Sometimes people ask me to roll, and I'm fine with it. If someone asks me, can I make a perception check? I'm like, sure, why not? Go ahead. I'll give you some details about the landscape or something. If something comes up, if you guys are RPing with someone and there's an insight roll to be made, I usually let you guys make that decision. Right. I want to roll insight on this character, but for things like I'm going to go hunting or something like that, if I don't feel like explaining it, I won't have you roll survival. I'll be like, you go out and hunt and you come back with this. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a time when I'm like, I wonder how much they got, roll for it. I'll explain what happens along the way, and you come back with this many rations,
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a time and place for those things. A lot of times you can leave that to your DM. Just don't. I'd say you can ask them to roll things. Just don't bombard them with it. Don't be overwhelming in most different ways that you can play the game. It can be overwhelming for a DM. For instance, what we talked about earlier. How does it look in? I'd like to roll insight to see every NPC's face perfectly. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's what makes a bad player. I think it's fun whenever people want to know about every NPC. But I think that especially if you're like, oh, I want to roll insight, and then you roll a 10, and they're like, well, they're kind of feeling this way, and then they say another sentence, and you're like, can I roll insight on that too? And you do that until you find something. Sometimes there's not anything to be found, and you just have to accept that there's not a secret behind every door.
And even
that was a good line. Yeah, go me.
Absolutely. In line with that, even sometimes I only hazard against asking for the roll, because sometimes there isn't something to be gleaned from it, and if you roll a natural 20 on your insight check, sometimes a lie is well hidden, and even if they were lying, like an insight roll is not a lie detector test.
Yeah.
There's a spell for that. It's called Zone of Truth.
For sure. Yeah, an insight check is not a lie detector test. We'll talk about this in the DM session, but you can come up with something creative to say that explains those things away, or make a huge joke about it. You know, I love it when someone rolls a nat 20 on perception and there's nothing to see, and you're like, all of a sudden you look around the room and you're standing on a tiny table, and you're looking, there's 5 giants looking down at you, moving your piece side to side. You know, there's just funny little things that make it fun for the game and makes everybody laugh. Can be a fun way to explain away a natural 22 on something that doesn't matter at all. And you know, as long as your DM's upfront about that, that's fun. Just big thing is, as a player, come to the table ready to be creative, ready to have fun, open to new experiences as much as possible, and just be a good person. Just be a good person. You know, don't throw a fit at the table. If you have problems with things, talk it out. Be communicative. Don't bottle things up. And you're going to play D&D and have a good time. It's a game meant to enjoy and have fun. It's not a game meant to live through.
Yeah. Final verdict, don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
We did have one more thing that that I took note of.
Yes.
Power gaming. Did we want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, I guess power gaming is one thing where someone tries to their best, their dart is to be the most powerful, to break the game, to get through, to basically to make themselves so powerful that no one can take you down. If your DM's a good DM, they're gonna work around that. You're never gonna be super powerful. Yes, there's going to be easy encounters. That happens all the time. Sometimes I'll write an encounter, and within 2 rounds, my players have steamrolled it, and I go, okay, next thing. And that's still fine. I like for my players to feel powerful and then go into a life or death scenario. Not everything's going to be life or death. I'll talk about that in the DM thing. You know, not every encounter should be world stakes and life or death stakes. But I would even consider, I would say you and Sean from time to time have had power gamer tendencies when building a character. And I've let everybody know, hey, that's okay with me, because I'm going to work around it to the best. Your abilities are not going to always come into perfect play, because I know ways around that aren't going to, I'm not going to target you specifically and be like, oh, all enemies after him, because he's strong. I'm going to do whatever the enemies would make sense of. But the next enemy might be a CR12 instead of a CR11, and that's just going to happen because I have strong players, you know?
Yeah. Might even be a CR16. For your level 7 party.
Yes, it might even be a CR16.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah, we did that, and we'll talk about that in the DM thing, because I do have some things as probably the most experienced DM with the most sessions played that I've got a lot of tips that I'd like to give. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that next time, though. Thank you guys for listening to this week of Table Talk Friday. Let's just toss it over to Eknon now to outro us.
Hello, it's Eknon Greylock here. Thank you for listening to Table Talk Friday. For more adventures, check us out at your favorite podcast service. If you have any questions about our travels, please write us a magic letter at tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. Otherwise, stop by next Friday for our next episode. Enjoy.